Okay, so today we're diving into something that honestly sounds a bit like science fiction, but it's very real and quite serious. Think about this. A danger that's completely invisible, no color, no smell, totally natural, actually. And it could be building up right now in the one place you feel safest, your home. We're talking about the leading cause of lung cancer for non-smokers in Canada. It's pretty startling stuff.
We are indeed talking about radon gas.
Hmm.
And the material we're looking at today zeroes in on people who are really on the front lines of housing information, realtors. They're in a unique position because they're dealing with this significant public health risk radon, where awareness is just, well, is shockingly low considering the stakes.
Yeah, it's a strange situation, isn't it? You have this known hazard, it's widespread. I mean, most Canadian homes have never been tested for it, but nobody's really talking about it. It's not dinner table conversation.
Right. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to understand, how this hazard gets into homes in the first place, starting literally from the ground up. And crucially, why aren't more people aware? We need to unpack the role that professionals like realtors can and really should play in getting people to test and fix the problem if needed. We have to put a spotlight on this silent killer.
Okay, let's nail down the basics first. You called it the silent killer. We know it's colorless, odorless, but why is it considered so urgent? What makes it so dangerous?
Well, the urgency comes from how it works. It's all about long-term exposure. It builds up damage slowly over many, many years, so you don't feel anything, you don't notice anything, until potentially it's way too late. And the stats are stark.
Yeah.
It is the #1 cause of lung cancer for people who have never, ever smoked. And for smokers, it's the second biggest cause after smoking itself. That's huge for something we can actually prevent.
The invisibility factor is just, yeah, it feels really unsettling when you put it like that. So if it's so bad, where is it even coming from? Is it industrial pollution or something like that?
No, not at all. And that's part of the challenge, maybe. It's completely natural. Radon gas is produced by the natural decay of uranium, which is just,
Yeah.
it's present in rock and soil pretty much everywhere across the country. It's just geology.
Okay, so it's being generated underground constantly. How does it get from deep in the earth through a concrete foundation and into my living room? Seems like I'd have a hard time getting through solid concrete.
That's where your house itself plays a role.
Ah.
The physics of the building. Radon gas seeps in through tiny openings, small cracks in the foundation, gaps around pipes, sump pumps, you name it, any little entry point. And once it's inside the basement or the lowest level, it gets drawn upwards into the rest of the house. There's something called the stack effect.
Stack effect. Okay, can you break that down a bit? Sounds a bit technical.
Yeah, sure. Think of your house, especially in the winter when it's all closed up, acting like a very slow chimney. Warm air inside rises, right? And eventually it leaks out through the upper parts of the house, the attic, vents, tiny gaps near windows. As that warm air leaves, it creates slightly lower air pressure down low in the basement or on the ground floor compared to the pressure in the soil just outside the foundation.
Oh, I think I see. So the house isn't just sitting there, it's actually kind of sucking air in from the ground below it
Yeah.
to balance out that pressure difference.
Exactly. You've got it. That pressure difference acts like a weak vacuum, constantly pulling radon gas and other gases in the soil right through any little crack or opening it can find. And then air currents and ventilation systems distribute it throughout your living space. It's this slow, steady infiltration.
Wow. Okay, that brings up a huge point. If it's natural, invisible, odorless, there's no way for me as a homeowner to just look around and know if I have a problem. How do you find this ghost?
You can't visually? No. The sources we looked at are absolutely clear on this. There is no way to visually identify if a specific home has high radon levels. Yes, risk maps exist. They show general areas where more homes tend to test high, but they're just statistical averages for a region. The core message, repeated again and again, is the only way to know for sure about your home is to test it. Individual testing. Maps give clues, tests give answers.
Right, okay, so testing is key. When's the best time to do this test? I'm guessing not summer when all the windows are open.
Exactly. You want to test when the house is most sealed up, representing the conditions where radon could potentially accumulate the most. So that usually means the cooler months, late fall, winter, early spring, when you've got the doors and windows shut tight against the weather for extended periods. That gives you the most accurate picture.
And what's involved in testing? Is it some complicated, expensive setup?
No, it's actually surprisingly straightforward and generally not that expensive. There are basically two main types of tests you can get. Short-term tests, they usually run for maybe 2 to 7 days. They give you a quick snapshot. But the preferred method, sort of gold standard, is a long-term test. That runs for 3 months, sometimes up to 6 months. This gives you a much better average reading because it covers different weather patterns, how you use your house day to day, that kind of thing. And the measurement unit is really important. It's measured in becquerels per cubic meter.
BQM. Okay, that sounds very scientific. Can you give us some context? Like, what's a typical level outside, and what's the number where alarm bells should start ringing?
Yeah, that context is crucial. Outside air typically has very low levels, maybe less than 10 BQM, often even lower, like around 5. Inside a home, ideally you'd want it to be quite low too, perhaps under 50 BQM.
Hmm.
Health Canada has set the action guideline at 200 BQM.
200.
Yeah.
Right. So if a test comes back at, say, 250 or 300, that's significantly higher than background levels.
Oh, absolutely. It's a level where the health risk becomes a real concern based on long-term exposure. A reading over 200 BQMO means Health Canada strongly recommends you take action to lower the level. And the sources emphasize, it's not like 199 is fine and 201 is disaster. It's a guideline. But the higher your reading goes above 200, the more urgent the need to remediate becomes.
Okay, so let's say someone does the test and it comes back high. The source material did say the good news is that fixing it, mitigation, is relatively simple. That's encouraging. But how do you actually stop this invisible gas coming up from the ground?
Yeah, that is the good news. The solutions are well understood and generally quite effective. There are sort of 3 main approaches for existing homes. The first and simplest step is often sealing. Going around and sealing up obvious entry points, cracks in the floor, openings around pipes, the sump pit cover. But sealing alone often isn't enough, especially if the levels are quite high.
Right, because that stack effect, that pressure difference pulling the gas in, is still happening, right? So what's the next level of defense?
That's where you get into active systems. The most common and effective method is called subslab depressurization, or sometimes active soil depressurization. Basically, you install a pipe through the basement floor slab, run it outside, and connect it to a special fan that runs continuously, very quietly. What it does is create suction underneath your basement floor. It draws the radon gas from the soil before it can even enter your house and vents it harmlessly outdoors, usually above the roofline.
Huh. So you're basically intercepting it underneath the house, like installing a dedicated radon vacuum cleaner under the foundation.
That's a great way to think about it, yeah. It tackles the problem at the source. The third method you mentioned was ventilation.
Yes, increasing ventilation, how does that work?
Well, you can install or upgrade a heat recovery ventilator, or HRV. These systems bring fresh air into the house while exhausting stale air out, and they recover some of the heat in the process. More fresh air helps dilute the radon concentration inside. Though for really high levels, the subslab depressurization is usually considered the most direct and reliable fix.
Now, here's where it gets a bit counterintuitive. We're building new homes to be super energy efficient, really airtight, but the sources suggest this might actually make the radon problem worse. How does that work?
Yeah, it seems like a paradox, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of an unintended consequence of trying to do something good saving energy. New building codes demand a really high degree of air sealing. We're making houses incredibly tight to prevent drafts and heat loss, which is great for your energy bills.
Yeah.
But if radon does get into that super sealed house, it can't easily escape. It gets trapped inside, potentially leading to much higher concentrations than you might find in an older, leakier, draftier house.
Ah, okay. So the tight seal keeps the heat in, but it can also keep the radon in if it finds a way past the foundation seal. So are builders doing anything about this now?
They are, thankfully. Building codes are adapting. For example, in British Columbia, the code now requires new houses built on the ground, so not apartments way up high, to have basic radon mitigation measures roughed in during construction. This usually means putting in a good vapor barrier under the slab and installing a capped pipe that runs from beneath the slab up to an accessible point. It makes it much, much cheaper and easier to add the fan later and activate the full sub-slab depressurization system if post-construction testing shows it's needed.
That makes sense. Build it efficiently, but also build in the safety net just in case. A belt and suspenders approach.
Exactly. It's about sealing the foundation really well to prevent entry in the first place, but also having that rough-in ready as a cost-effective backup. It's becoming essential design for healthy homes.
And this all connects back to how we live now, doesn't it? The whole work-from-home shift, that must change the risk equation for a lot of people.
Oh, dramatically. Think about it. Historically, many people spent 40-plus hours a week in office buildings or other workplaces, which often have different ventilation systems and might be lower risk overall than, say, a basement. Now, millions are spending almost all their time, including their full work week, at home, often working in, guess where? Basements or ground floor home offices. The areas potentially most prone to radon accumulation.
So we're potentially spending way more hours exposed in the very parts of our homes where the risk could be highest.
Precisely. Your total exposure time, your potential dose, could be significantly higher now than it was pre-pandemic, even if the radon level itself hasn't changed. It really elevates the importance of testing. It shifts radon from just a home safety concern to potentially an occupational health issue, even if your commute is just down the stairs.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've covered what radon is, how it gets in, how to test, how to fix it. For you, the listener, what's the single most important takeaway from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway has to be that knowledge empowers you to protect yourself and your family. Awareness is the first step. Radon is a serious proven health risk, but the good news is it's identifiable through testing, and it's fixable with established methods. The cost of testing and fixing is tiny compared to the potential health consequences down the road. Action matters.
And this is where those professionals, the realtors mentioned in our source, really come in. They're positioned to make a huge difference.
Absolutely critical. Realtors, home inspectors, builders, anyone involved in housing transactions or construction has a responsibility, really. They need to move past seeing radon as some obscure issue and treat it as a standard part of the home safety conversation. They should be encouraging testing routinely and know how to point clients towards reliable, factual information and certified mitigation professionals, not just relying on regional maps.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Given that many of us are spending so much more time at home now, working, living, playing maybe we need to fundamentally rethink what makes our home environment truly safe. Is the air you breathe inside your own four walls as healthy as you assume it is? Something